All right, hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back. We're back with another video, and hopefully everybody's doing okay. On Sunday, we had quite a storm rip through my area, this area where I live in southwestern Ontario. And yeah, we had tornado warnings. Thankfully, at least where I live, it was just heavy rains, thunder and lightning, very windy, but thankfully no tornadoes touched down. So hopefully, if you live anywhere in southwestern Ontario, hopefully your Sunday went okay and there wasn't any damage. Okay, so these are all thrift store Goodwill finds. So let's get right to it. We got quite a mixed bag in this one. We're going to kick it off with a compilation. Now, often in thrift stores and Goodwills, you often see K-Tel compilations, that sort of thing. This one's a little different. This is actually a Dunhill Records compilation. So this features artists all from the Dunhill Records label, with quite a title for this: The Original Hits Right Now, plus some heavies from the motion picture Easy Rider. That's what they've called this compilation. So you've got Steppenwolf, Grassroots, also the band Smith, Mama Cass, Three Dog Night. You also have Adetta with a track, Ballad of Easy Rider, and a band called The Robs, which I'm not familiar with, which I wasn't born to follow. And they kind of double up on the artists, so they have a track like the Grassroots have a track on side one and side two, and so on. Same with Three Dog Night. But this is a pretty nice compilation overall. Again, all Dunhill Records artists, and it's generally pretty good condition. And I'm just going to quickly show you the label there, and Dunhill Records. Okay, now we switch gears with Superfly TNT. I was pretty happy to come across something like this. So this is the soundtrack to the movie Superfly TNT, and this is one of the many sequels to Superfly. Now the music on here is featured, the music is by a band called Osabisa, which is a band that was formed in London, England, featuring members from Ghana and from the Caribbean. So overall, this music has really sort of an African feel to it. So it's different from, say, the Curtis Mayfield take on Superfly. So here you have the movie credits of those featured in the movie. But this is really an outstanding soundtrack, and I think Steve Carlson would really enjoy this album. But I was really pleased to come across this. I wasn't quite familiar with Superfly TNT, but boy, I'm so glad I picked this up. And this is on Buddha Records, and this came out in 1973. Okay, and we switch gears again. How about the Hillside Singers, and I'd like to teach the world to sing. You may or may not be old enough to remember a Coca-Cola commercial from the early 70s that had young singers singing a song called I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing in Perfect Harmony. Well, they had it with Coca-Cola, and it was a huge hit. So this is a full-length album featuring that song and other tracks. This is under the direction of Al Ham. And so there's the track listings. So you have, again, all in that sort of young singer's sound. Take Me Home Country Roads, Day by Day, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. Interesting choice to do Tomorrow Belongs to Me from the Cabaret soundtrack. Not quite sure why they chose that particular track, but this is, yeah, from 1971 when this album came out. And this is on Metro Media Records. Okay. Canadian artist John Allen Cameron. This is his album Good Times. John Allen Cameron died a number of years ago. He is a folk singer. Folk singer-songwriter from the East Coast, highly respected. And on this one, he does a cover of 45 Years, they call it 45 Years From Now. That's the Stan Rogers song that was featured on his first album, Fogarty's Cove. This album has a little bit more of a country sound to it, but still very enjoyable overall. John Allen Cameron. And this one was still in the shrink, which was kind of cool. And this featured on the Freedom label. John Allen Cameron. Okay, Herb Alpert and Hugh Masekela. Didn't even know they made an album together. Big Hugh Masekela fan. And overall, it's a nice album. Can't fault it at all. It still has that sort of, Herb Alpert sound, so everything's kind of, I don't want to say muted down, but it's maybe not as interesting as it could be, but, and nice collaboration there. And this one with the original sleeve. I do like when collaborations like this, and again this on A&M Records. Herb Alpert and Hugh Masekela. Great. Album, I had no idea. Saw the cover of this, wasn't familiar with this at all. I believe it's pronounced Ojiji, 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 and it was called The Shadow, and that is the title of the album, because the artist is Rupert Ojiji Harvey. And checking it out, I thought, well, this, definitely has kind of a reggae kind of feel going on. And the artist looked familiar, and sure enough, this was an artist who would go on to be with the Canadian band Messenger, which was a very reggae sort of pop band. And this is pretty much in that style. It has some reggae roots, a little bit more pop, Caribbean kind of sound. But a real absolute delight. So this came out, I'm not sure what the year this came out, 1979. And then he would later hook up with the band Messenger. But this is one of those, had no idea, but thought, well, take a chance on it. But really enjoyed this. And this is on Ultra Records. So just an independent, oops, yeah, there we go. But yeah, that was a really nice find. I did enjoy that. Joan Baez in Concert Part 2. I don't have Part 1, but I have Part 2. So this came out, I believe, in 1963, I want to say, and I think Part 1 came out in 62. So this is Joan Baez in Concert on Vanguard, and featuring Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, We Shall Overcome, Long Black Veil. It's Joan Baez, what can you say? And of course on the great Vanguard label. Okay, but yes, I don't have Part 1, but I have Part 2. A George Jones compilation. This is on Epic Records, and this is one of those. I do have one that's similar to this by Ian and Sylvia, where they basically take two different albums, put them together, and release it as kind of like a best of. So these are two different albums. So this is George Jones featuring We Can Make It, and then George Jones, A Picture of Me Without You. Got a real soft spot for George Jones. I think he's was just a terrific vocalist. And that sort of, that traditional country sound, but you can't go wrong. Yeah, this is actually not a gatefold. So we're trying to open it like a gatefold. Not a gatefold, but two albums, and on Epic Records. George Jones, yeah, that was nice to pick up. Bert Bacharach, wasn't quite sure if I was going to snag this one, but Bert Bacharach, Make It Easy on Yourself. This features I'll Never Fall in Love Again, This Guy's in Love with You, Do You Know the Way to San Jose? I mean, boy, Bert Bacharach and Hal David wrote some incredible pop songs in the 60s. So this there's some instrumental stuff. Promises Promises on here is predominantly instrumental. Some that features Bert Bacharach on vocals. This is okay. Like, it's a great selection of songs. It's not the original artists doing these songs, but interesting to say the least. Very easy listening sound. But I figured for a couple of bucks you couldn't go wrong on that one. And again on A&M Records. I've noticed on some of the recent video finds that people don't seem to be showing the insides of the records. They just tend to be showing like the covers and then the back and then moving on. But I was always kind of under the impression that you would like to see the label, or if there's something interesting with the inner sleeve. So I figured I'll just keep going with showing you as much as we can with the records. Earth, Wind and Fire. I don't have a lot of Earth, Wind and Fire in my collection. And when you talk about sort of the disco stuff of the 70s, here is a band, Earth, Wind and Fire, that did it right. This is absolutely terrific album, Earth, Wind and Fire. If I can get it out of the shrink, it seems to, not the shrink, but the wrap here, it seems to be not wanting to come out. There we go. So Earth, Wind and Fire, and this is I Am. And this features, check this out. That's just terrific. But front to back, this is just a great album. This features Boogie Wonderland with the Emotions. A great album, and as I said, for bands that kind of got a little bit more disco-y, and obviously they've always had the sort of the funk. Now the sleeve's not in great shape, but it does have the lyrics there. Talk about a band that totally did it right. Just a great sound with Earth, Wind and Fire. Okay, let's change gears. How about the Mills Brothers? And why not? Our golden favorites. My dad was always a big Mills Brothers fan, so I think I have a soft spot for them. Just great vocal harmonies. Paper Doll. You put the Mills Brothers on, it's smooth as silk. I don't know. I like it. I like the Knowles Brothers, and I thought this was a nice. I think this is a later pressing, but it really has the look of the old kind of Decca design. But I'm pretty sure this is a later pressing. Because this is, in fact, on MCA Records. But I was pretty happy to come across that. Here's a compilation. I mean, terrific artists on this. This is Musician's Guide, Volume 2, a guided musical tour through the second album release on Elektra Musicians Records. Limited edition, special low price. And this may have been a radio copy. I'm not positive. But check out the artist featured on here. Terrific. Yeah, really, really. Yes, this is a radio copy. It's got the promo stamp right there. So, pretty nice. And yeah, Bobby McFerrin on here. Gosh, you got Woody Shaw, Clifford Brown, Max Roach. Oh. And yeah, there you go. I'm not sure when this came out offhand, but doesn't really seem to say. Yeah, I can't seem to get a year on this, but really nice record overall. Okay, something a little different. How about a band called Barley Bree and No Man's Land? And this says music from Ireland, as you could maybe guess from the cover. Now, this is actually a Canadian band, so I believe they were from Ireland, and then they came to Canada. And this is their album called No Man's Land on Boot International. And I think there was this came out in 1980. Now, there's not a lot of information about this band, but I think when I looked it up, it had a completely different date for this, that it came out in like the late 80s. So that the Wikipedia information was not correct. But yeah, a band, these are members from Ireland that came over to Canada, albeit briefly. I don't think they were together for too long. But, it's just wonderful Irish music. And on Boot Records. Okay, now here is a very unusual Canadian compilation. I was surprised to see this. This is a CBC compilation, CBC / Radio Canada, and features just 4 artists. Cockroach, an artist called Peter Mendita, also Don Gillis, and Kurt Watts. Wasn't quite sure if I should pick this up or not. There's little write-ups on each group. Very little information. I couldn't find a single shred of information on the band Cockroach. There's, I believe, an Australian band called the Cockroaches, but this is just called Cockroach. And this is kind of, the band Cockroach is kind of sort of folky pop kind of sound, produced in Montreal. Really enjoyable. Peter Mendita didn't enjoy quite as much. The song A Bicycle was a little odd. Don Gillis, that name is familiar, and it says Don Gillis, the man who gave us that popular Mo Kaufman recording, is back again. So when you get into Don Gillis and Kurt Watts for side 2, this gets into sort of covers with a sort of a jazzy big brass sound. And for Don Gillis, there's a cover of Stevie Wonder's Living in the City and a cover of Lady Marmalade. And they totally work. It's really enjoyable, and I did like the Kurt Watts material as well. So this was an unusual find. CBC, these things would often be produced, so this is restricted to broadcasting stations authorized by the CBC only, so this would have been made in-house for CBC Radio, that sort of thing. So that was a kind of a nice find. And on CBC Records. So that wasn't necessarily made for public resale. Okay, I picked this up a little disappointed. This is Hugh Montano and his orchestra in a sentimental mood. This is very lush orchestration. Nice, but not terrific on RCA Camden. I wasn't quite sure. I thought maybe I'd take a chance, and it was okay. I do like the label, though, RCA Camden. But okay, just okay. And last but not least, how about Tony Bennett and Hometown, My Town on Columbia? And there's just 6 tracks on this. And this album, I think, is only about 27 minutes long. It's almost like an EP, but it is considered a 20-minute full-length album. But it's terrific. You know, it's Tony Bennett. He's He's so great. And this has the, I believe, yes, the original sleeve. It shows you what else you can get. So it's kind of fun. There you go. And how to play your records. And on Columbia 6i, which is such a great label. Okay, so that's it for some thrift store finds for this time. We'll be back again with more vinyl finds for sure. So do take care. Bye.